Hello, this is Sixbolt in Von Doom's lab. So I just wanted to make a quick video about some of the other two programs that I have besides Hook of the Reaper. So if you go to my GitHub, I actually have three repositories. So of course the one everybody knows about is Hook of the Reaper. Then I got ChangePlayerNum program, which I'm going to talk about. Then I have LG TCP tester repository, which I'll talk about in a different video. So let's start kind of talking about the ChangePlayerNum program. So to kind of understand about how this program works is kind of understanding about how the default LG game files work. So at the front of the file you have player, so it says how many players in the game. So then this will be like a two-player game. Then it tells, these are the player assignments. Kind of looking back at it now, I shouldn't probably had player assignments. Maybe I should have had light gun assignments because it's kind of confusing. So, but this is kind of the player assignments. Then you have the in-game player. So from looking at here, it's using player 3 and player 4. So if you had like Hook of the Reaper, come down and go to player assignments, okay, you have player 3 and player 4. That would be the OpenFire 1 and the MX24 1, right? So then, as you see when you come down here, they get mapped to player 1. So here you have player 1 damage P1, which is mapped to P3 up here. So the first one gets mapped to player 1, then the second one goes to player 2, then 3 and 4. There's only 4 players right now. So that's kind of like how, you could change light guns in the game files. You don't always have to take player assignment 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can actually change them around. So kind of looking at here, you can see that then even coming down here to player 2 ammo, see player 2 is mapped to player 4. And that's kind of why I did the change player number program. So let's kind of get into that. Sorry. So right now I have the change player program just in my path. I have a D slash path that I throw a lot of programs in. Then the command line stuff. You have a path variable that you can set directories to. That then it will go search for programs that it can run. So it's in there already. So I put the exe and the DLL there. So if you just run it, or because it needs actually input, or if you just run it with -h, it will display the help info, so which is right here. So what you do here is you run the program, then you say how many players are in the game. So if it's a 2-player, you go 2-player. Then you can say the player assignments. So if it's 2-player, then you can go in like 1 and 2, but that won't do anything because everything at default is 1 or 2. But then you can change it to 3 or 4 or 5 and 6 or to whatever player assignments that you want to. So then there's a couple other options. So usually when it kind of writes the file, so create a new directory. But if you might use the -w option, it will just rewrite all the files. So it won't create a directory, it will just rewrite all the current files if you wanted to. Then it runs actually, so like I said, I have it in my path, but if I run the program here, it would run in test change name test. So the path is where it's run at, not where it's located at. But if you want to change the path, let's say you run it and you want to run it on a different path, you can use the -p or minus path to change where it runs to. Then -f or minus file, because usually by default it will look through all the text files in the directory, as DefaultLG files are just text files. So if you run it, it will look in the directory and try to go after all the text files in there. If you want to go after one specific file, that's when you use the -f or minus file. Then you can tell this is the file I want to look at. Then by default, like I said, it outputs to a directory. But if you want to rename that directory to something else instead of the default, you use the -o or -output. So that's kind of the options there. So kind of looking back at, let's go back to Hook of the Reaper. So looking at the player assignments, I know one of the things a lot of people talk about, they usually maybe only have like their first light gun plugged in and nothing else. But player 2 is already assigned. But since a lot of times they don't have it plugged in, they'll get errors saying, hey, the light gun is not plugged in. So kind of way maybe around that is actually, as you saw, like player 8, there's nothing on. So what I can do here, I'll put this here. This is all the files in the directory. So I copied all the files in from what comes with Hook of the Reaper. So just to run this test. So what I do is I can go 2, and I can go 1 and 8. So that will take every 2-player game and 1-player game. So the first one will be player 1, then the second one will be player 8. So then I'll hit it, and you can see how fast it runs. It runs pretty much under a second. So I go like that, it's done. And you can open it up here. So now if I open that up, you can see, hey, it's player 1 and player 8. Then if I go back to the original file, you can see it's player 1 and player 2. So with scripting, you can easily, copy, wrong one. You can copy all these files. So what you can do is you have a lot of directories and make a whole bunch of directories of all the combinations you want. Then you can have like scripts that move it into the main directory in and out of it. Then you can have like the original. So then you can move whatever you want in and out. For example, let's come back to the player assignment. Let's say you want to use a Reaper and the MX24, right? So that's 1 and 4. So that would be an easy one to do. So you can just do 1 and 4. So then it'll be bam. Then also another combination you can do with the Reaper and the open fire, right? So you can do 1 and 3. So and as you can see, it runs really fast, so you can chunk out a lot of things, and you don't really have to worry too much about space, right? If you look at properties, this is like 50 kilobytes for all of it. And if I looked at the look at the main one, it's like 200 kilobytes. So it's like very small. I mean, text files are very small. So you can create like all the directories you want and just compile them. Then, like I said, you can also do -w too. So with the -w, we'll just rewrite all the files, right? So if you do that, so you saw it was 1 and 2, so now it should be 1 and 3. So I go like that. So now this file was rewritten again. Oh, Oh, okay. Sorry, since I updated it, it was complaining. So now you can see it's player 1 and player 3. Right, so now I can easily change it back to 2. So if I come back here, now it's player 1 and player 2. So you can create directories, or you can rewrite over things. So just an easy way for the people that have a lot of light guns, like to change things out all the time, or like to do things. I know a lot of people have scripts to run everything. So it's kind of for that. So until kind of the advanced options come out, I kind of have this to kind of change guns out really quickly if you want to. And and also one thing before we close, I just want to say is if you just do 2-player, it will do 2-player game and 1-player game. So if you want to do all the files, you have to do 4-player. So if you wanted, like the first example up here, you just want one light gun, right? So what you could do is you could do 4, then you can do 6, 7, and 8. What assignment? Oh, oops. I needed to put a 1 in there. So I needed 4 numbers after that. Okay. So now you can see it creates a P1, P6, P7, P8. So I know the 4-player is arrow shooter. You can look at here. So it's player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. Right. So now if we go into here, there's arrow shooter. When you open that, that's 6, 7, and 8. So I just wanted to make sure that there's a handful of 3-player and 4-player games, but the vast majority of the files are 2-player games. So, but that's a quick kind of video just on how to run this program, and hopefully it helps people out if they want to change guns around or do other things. Thanks. Bye.